things that I love to do is to embroider back into my painted papers. So for this one, I wanted to do that, but start with a texture paper that I created using watercolor and acrylic ink. So I folded that in half, I cut it a heart shape. I did a little bit of refining just to make sure that I had the heart shape that I wanted. And then I'm just gonna glue that down onto a plain piece of drawing paper that I happen to have on hand. Just using a glue stick for this one. It's not anything crazy, so I don't need to worry about getting out my book binding or liquid white glue. So I found the cleaner side of the paper, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that down just a little bit higher than center so that it has a nice balance to it. And then I'm going to use this push pin to push in and pre-mark where my stitches are going to go. I grabbed a piece of cardboard to make it easier to do this. So I'm just creating some balanced marks around the heart, kind of using different points, the highest point, the lowest point, the dip in the middle, and then working between those so that I end up with a fairly even spaced amount of sewing holes all the way around the outer edge of my glued on collage heart. And you could do this with an owl also. I have that also, but that's actually in my travel embroidery bag. So when that happens to be out of the art studio or away from wherever I'm working, push pins work great. I love them because they're easy to, keep on hand, and you get a ton of them for a little bit of money, and they work perfect for puncturing into any kind of paper that you might want to sew into. Now I'm going to find the center-ish point between the indent on the top and the point on the bottom, and I'm selecting the type of embroidery floss I want to use. I decided to go with my lighter pink multicolored strand so that it would really pop off that bolder red background. I love stitching in with embroidery floss because it has 6 strands to it. So you can pull it apart and thin it as much as you want to and get quite a lot of thread out of one piece of embroidery floss. So of those 6 strands, I always split it in half usually, and that gives me 3 because I know I'm going to end up doubling up my thread when I go through my needle and then tie the 2 ends together. And that is a really lovely bold line that can easily go through the hole the size that a push pin or an owl will make for any kind of stitching that you might want to do. You could also do this with sewing thread. I did consider using some of the metallic sewing threads that I have on hand, thinking that the metallic might be a nice touch. But in the end, the softness of the embroidery floss and those pinks just really spoke to me. And I do like using larger eyed needles when I'm working with embroidery floss because it is a thicker thread. So I need that bigger hole to be able to get the thread through there. And I'm making fairly large holes in my paper by using the push pin or the owl anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and thread up through the center and then out the back through one of the top holes. And all I'm doing is creating radial stitches that go from the center to the outer edge. And I'm going to have to keep cutting my floss and tying it off and adding more so that I'm not ending up with a huge strand of floss that I'm trying to sew through this, because that often gets tangled. So I like to work with long enough floss, 2 to 3 feet, depending on how it folds up, so that I can get a fair amount of stitches when I'm doing long stitches like this. And then when it gets a little bit short, I'll tie it off in the back, double knot it, and then trim that down, and then re-thread my needle and continue stitching. So I'm just going to keep working my way in and out from the outer edges to the center until the whole piece is sewn. So I'm finishing up the last couple stitches that I have for my piece, and I'm loving how this is turning out. I think this is one of my favorite pieces that I've created during these 14 days of Valentine's inspired art so far. And I haven't stitched into a painting in a while, so it was really fun to get back to a technique that I really love and has given me a lot of other ideas of how I could do this in so many different ways. So if you are someone who enjoys sewing, or if you want to incorporate a new media into your mixed media practice, or you want to try something new, whatever it may be, I highly encourage you to check out embroidering into your paintings and drawings. It's really fun and exciting. And if you want to learn more about it, I have a class on embroidering into watercolor and acrylic paintings over on Skillshare. So I'll be sure to include a link to that in the description below. And with that link, you can get a free month of Skillshare when you sign up for a Skillshare account if you don't already have one. So I hope you'll check out the class. Let me know what you think about the video. I'd love your comments below. Give it a like if you thought it was pretty neat, and be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the rest of the Valentine's Day art videos and all of the other fun stuff that I have planned for after I finish this 14 days of art prompts. Till next time.